If it's the Electra, it would suggest that the Nikomororo hypothesis could be true, that Earhart and Noonan didn't crash at sea, but rather they landed the aircraft possibly on the reef of that island and were marooned there.
The search for Amelia Earhart is finally over. After 88 years of wild theories, was she a castaway, a spy? A high-tech autonomous drone has found what looks exactly like her plane. The discovery is shocking, but the location is the real story. It points to a simple, terrifying mistake that changes everything we thought we knew about her final flight. The truth isn't a conspiracy, it's something much colder and much deeper. Finally found after 88 years. For nearly 9 decades, the world has been captivated by one question: what happened to Amelia Earhart? Her disappearance in 1937 remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in history. Countless searches have turned up nothing, leaving only wild theories about castaway islands and government plots. But now that all might be over, in January of 2024, a discovery was announced that changes everything. A team of deep-sea explorers from a company called Deep Sea Vision, based in South Carolina, believes they have found her. They didn't find her on an island. They found her plane 3 miles down, resting on the cold, dark floor of the Pacific Ocean. The man behind this incredible find is Tony Romeo, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer. He didn't just stumble upon this, he spent a fortune, reportedly over $11 million, to fund this high-tech hunt. His team used a state-of-the-art autonomous underwater drone, a $9 million machine called the Hugin 6000. This machine is basically a 22-foot torpedo packed with the most advanced sonar technology on the planet. For months, the drone scanned a massive area, over 5,200 square miles of ocean floor. Romeo was following a specific and often overlooked theory known as the dateline theory. You see, many people are crazy about the idea that she landed on an island, but this theory suggests something much simpler and much more tragic. The theory, first proposed by an amateur pilot named Liz Smith, suggests Earhart's navigator, Fred Noonan, made a simple human error. During their grueling 18-hour flight, they crossed the international dateline. The theory is that Noonan, exhausted, forgot to turn his calendar back a day, a tiny mistake. But that one mistake could have thrown off their celestial navigation by 60 miles. They would have been looking for their target, Howland Island, in the complete wrong place. The Deep Sea Vision drone was searching right in that 60-mile wide error zone. 100 days into the mission, the sonar picked up an anomaly. When they looked at the data, their jaws hit the floor. There, at a crushing depth of 16,000 feet, was a blurry, grainy shape. It was the exact size and shape of Earhart's plane, a Lockheed 10E Electra. The sonar image is so clear you can even make out the distinct twin vertical tails, a feature of her specific aircraft. What many overlooked is that this location, just 100 miles from Howland Island, fits the dateline theory perfectly. The plane appears to be largely intact, suggesting Earhart didn't crash in a fiery explosion. Instead, she likely ran out of fuel and performed a controlled ditching on the water's surface. The plane would have floated for a few minutes, maybe 10, before the ocean pulled it down into the abyss. This new find isn't just a clue, it's a potential crime scene. The drone has captured the coordinates of what is very likely a 16,000-foot deep grave. The team kept the discovery secret for months, analyzing the data. Now they are planning a return expedition, this time to bring high-resolution cameras. They need to get eyeballs on the wreck to confirm it once and for all. If this is her plane, the mystery is solved. But the truth it reveals is terrifying. There was no island, no survival. Just a simple mistake, a lonely descent into the dark, and an 88-year wait to be found. But this new find changes the entire story we thought we knew. Earhart's last gamble. To understand why this discovery is so huge, you have to understand just how big Amelia Earhart was. She wasn't just a pilot. In the 1930s, she was one of the most famous women on Earth. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. That single flight made her a global icon, a symbol of daring and breaking boundaries. But for Amelia, that wasn't enough. She wanted the final, greatest prize in aviation, to be the first person to fly around the world at its widest point, the equator. This was an incredibly dangerous goal. We're talking about a flight of 29,000 miles in 1937. The technology was basic. Navigation relied on the stars and a clock. There was no GPS, no satellite phones. You were truly, completely on your own. Her plane was a marvel of its time, a twin-engine Lockheed 10E Electra. She called it her flying laboratory. It was heavily modified, with most of the cabin ripped out and replaced with massive fuel tanks, allowing it to fly for over 20 hours straight. Her partner on this journey was Fred Noonan, considered one of the best celestial navigators in the world. By July 2, 1937, they had already flown over 22,000 miles. They were on the home stretch. They took off from Lae, New Guinea for the most dangerous leg of the entire journey, a 2,556-mile flight over the open Pacific to a tiny speck of land called Howland Island. The thing nobody tells you is just how small Howland Island is. It's barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide. It's a flat, treeless piece of coral. A U.S. Coast Guard cutter, the Itasca, was waiting for them at the island. Its job was to act as a radio beacon. As Earhart's plane got close, they began to communicate, but the radio signals were full of static. The Itasca could hear Earhart, but she apparently couldn't hear them. At 7:42 in the morning, her voice came over the radio, clear but worried. "We must be on you, but cannot see you. But gas is running low." The Itasca crew sent up smoke signals from the ship's smokestack trying to give her a visual target, but the sky was overcast. Minutes later, another message: "We are flying at altitude 1,000 feet. She was desperately circling, scanning the clouds and the endless blue water for any sign of land. At 8:43 a.m., her final haunting message was broadcast: "We are on the line, 157337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6210 kilocycles." Wait. Then, silence. Just like that, the most famous aviator in the world, along with her navigator and her state-of-the-art plane, had vanished. The U.S. government immediately launched the largest and most expensive search and rescue operation in history. Over $4 million was spent. 66 aircraft and 9 ships, including the battleship Colorado and the aircraft carrier Lexington, scoured 250,000 square miles of ocean. They found nothing. No oil slick, no wreckage, no sign of life. It was as if she had flown straight into another dimension. The world was stunned, and the mystery had just begun. For decades, the official theory was simple. They ran out of gas, crashed, and sank. The wrong island. The official story, that Earhart crashed and sank near Howland Island, was simple. But for many, it was too simple. It didn't feel right. How could she vanish so completely? This is where the story takes a turn, leading to decades of searching in the completely wrong place. Many people are crazy about a different idea, the Castaway theory. This theory was championed by a group called TIGHAR, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, led by a man named Rick Gillespie. Gillespie believed Earhart didn't crash. He argued that when she knew she was lost, she turned south, flying along that 157337 line she mentioned in her last broadcast. 400 miles south of Howland Island, there was a small uninhabited atoll called Gardner Island, now known as Nikumaroro. It has a flat reef just big enough to land a plane on at low tide. Gillespie's theory was that Earhart and Noonan landed there. They became castaways. This is a heck of a story. It means they didn't perish instantly, but slowly on a deserted island. And TIGHAR spent decades and millions of dollars trying to prove it. They launched over a dozen expeditions to Nikumaroro, and what they found was tantalizing. They found pieces of a woman's shoe from the 1930s. They found a zipper from that same era. They found a small broken glass jar. When researchers looked into it, they found it was for a brand of freckle-blurring cream. This was a wow factor. Amelia Earhart was known to dislike her freckles and used this exact kind of cream. The biggest clue came in 1940. A British administrator visiting the island found a partial human skeleton, 13 bones in total. He also found a campsite, turtle remains, and a box that once held a navigation tool. The bones were sent to Fiji, where a doctor measured them and concluded they belonged to a short European man. But in 1998, TIGHAR researchers found the doctor's original files. They reanalyzed the measurements using modern computer science. Their conclusion? The bones were consistent with a female of Earhart's height and ethnic origin. For years, this theory dominated the conversation. It seemed like the mystery was solved. But not all things are what they seem. The evidence, while exciting, was never conclusive. The freckle jar was a popular brand. The shoe couldn't be definitively linked to her. And the bone analysis was based on measurements from a doctor who got the initial assessment wrong. The plane itself was never found. TIGHAR believed it was washed off the reef by waves, sinking into the deep ocean just offshore. But sonar searches around Nikumaroro found nothing. The Castaway theory was a powerful, dramatic story, but it just didn't add up. All that evidence was just stuff. It wasn't the plane. The world was so focused on this island survival story that they missed the simpler, colder truth. What the drone really found. This brings us back to the present, back to Tony Romeo and the Deep Sea Vision drone. Their discovery blows the Castaway theory completely out of the water. If this sonar image is Earhart's plane, it means she is exactly where the U.S. Navy first believed she was, in the deep ocean near Howland Island. But the Navy couldn't find her. Why? Because they were looking for wreckage on the surface. The ocean there is 16,000 feet deep. That's 3 miles. In 1937, searching that deep was pure science fiction. So what is the terrifying truth from the title? The truth is that there was no island. There was no long, drawn-out fight for survival as a castaway. There was no capture by the Japanese, another popular myth that has been thoroughly debunked. The truth is much colder, faster, and, to put it mildly, more horrifying. This is where it gets chilling. Let's follow the dateline theory to its end. Earhart and Noonan are exhausted. They've been flying for nearly 20 hours. They are lost. They are 60 miles off course because of one tiny navigation error. They are scanning the horizon for an island that isn't there. Amelia's voice crackles over the radio. Gas is running low. They both know what this means. They are out of time. The sonar image shows a plane that is intact. This is the key. It didn't break apart in the air. It didn't explode on impact. This means Amelia Earhart, one of the best pilots in the world, did exactly what she was trained to do. She ditched the plane. She would have flown low over the waves, stalling the aircraft just above the water and pancaked it onto the surface. The impact would have been violent but survivable. For a few brief moments, they would have been floating, but the Lockheed Electra was not a seaplane. It was a heavy, modified land plane, its fuselage filled with empty fuel tanks. It would have floated for minutes at best. In that time, they would have had to grab their emergency raft and get out. But something went wrong. Maybe the impact jammed the hatch. Maybe they were injured, or maybe the plane sank faster than anyone could have imagined. The sonar image sitting there on the seabed suggests they never got out. The plane, with them likely still inside, would have slipped beneath the waves. It would have begun its long, final journey down. It would have taken hours for the plane to fall 16,000 feet. They would have descended through the sunlight zone, into the twilight zone, and finally into the pitch-black, crushing pressure of the abyss. That is the terrifying truth. Not a conspiracy, not a mystery monster, but a simple, tragic human error, followed by a lonely, dark, and hopeless end 3 miles below the rest of the world. The Deep Sea Vision team is planning their return. Will they finally bring Amelia home, or is this just another false hope? Let us know what you believe. Like and subscribe.